Good morning. It's time for today's AM Minnesota program, and we are going to find out more about the solar industry today. My guest in the program is Dustin Dennison. Dustin is a president and co-owner of a company called Minnesota Community Solar. Well, Dustin, welcome to the program.
Welcome. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, Dustin, tell us a little bit more about yourself first and how you got interested in working in the energy field, specifically renewable energy. I guess we could call solar renewable because the sun comes up every day, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it's a wonderful industry to be in. A little bit about myself. I wear several different hats within the industry. First and foremost, I own two companies. One is Applied Energy Innovations out of South Minneapolis. We do installations and energy efficiency for individuals that are going to own those systems, whether it be mechanical systems, solar renewable, solar thermal systems. These are going to be installations typically on individuals' properties, on their businesses. And then the other hat I have is with Minnesota Community Solar. And as a co-founder, co-owner with Minnesota Community Solar, we opened up about a year and a half ago after the 2013 Clean Energy Jobs Omnibus Bill passed. And what we are doing is developing large-scale arrays that individuals get to participate in with a subscription. And so businesses and residents and individuals would save money on their Excel energy bill, and they would also get another form, a clean form of energy. One of my last hats is as president of MNSEA, which is the Minnesota Solar Energy Industry Association, and we are a nonprofit group, a trade group representing almost 90 different businesses and organizations. We do a lot of the legislative, the lobbying work. We represent everything from trade unions to installers to manufacturers to developers and even some colleges and universities. So there's a lot going on in the industry right now. The prediction and the numbers that we've seen is basically our industry in the last 2 years growing by about 3,500%.
Well, if folks are interested in what you're talking about and would like to find out more too, you are going to be here in Faribault tomorrow with a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce office, right?
That's correct. I invite people to come on down, and it's a free event to attend and check out what these opportunities are and how businesses can participate.
Yeah, the exact details on that, show up about 11:45, the noon presentation, and it's a fairly short presentation then if you're going to be wrapped up by about 1 o'clock.
That's correct. We're going to have a lot of information to go over.
I would make a prediction that some folks are going to hang around longer than 1 o'clock and want to talk to you, Dustin.
Oh, I think so. Yep.
I'll bet that's happened to you a few times in the past, hasn't it?
It is. It's a lot of new ground that the legislation has opened up, and people are really kind of starting to find out about this, and it's really through going out and educating people and working with community partners to help spread that word.
You mentioned that one part of your business is working with individual homeowners that would be on my property, maybe on my house, around my house in town, but then large projects too that folks in the community could be involved in. I assume that would be set up maybe on the edge of the community, right outside the community. It reminded me a lot of businesses I work with called co-ops.
Mm-hmm. Yep, very much. When we talk about the community solar model, a community solar garden, specifically this bill passed in 2013, and it's now just being implemented, and programs are being rolled out. What we're talking about is the opportunity for businesses and individuals to participate in a subscription to an off-site solar array. That would be a large community solar garden that people would then receive what's called basically virtual net metering. They're going to get credits onto their utility bill that's going to provide them a savings. And in addition, what they now have, what we've put into the marketplace is essentially another option. We're democratizing energy here, giving people more options on where and how their energy is being produced.
Dustin Dennison. He's involved in two companies. One, the Minnesota Community Solar Project, and also then another one specifically for individual homeowners living in the community. And Dustin, before I interrupted you for the market break, you were talking about this community solar project. And once again, my comment is it reminds me a whole lot of businesses that I'm used to working with, co-op, where everybody kind of owns a big project together. That's kind of it, isn't it?
It's very close. In this model, what we've worked out is instead of it's actual co-op where there's ownership of individual assets, we've streamlined this to make it very simple to be a subscription-based participation. And the reason being, when we look at the complexity of the actual co-ownership of assets and equipment, we really start to get into these issues of the securities, that being with the federal government and with the state of Minnesota. And what we're seeing is the majority, almost probably 95% of all the community solar gardens that are coming out will be based on this subscription, where you'll have an option to buy in and continue to pay essentially your monthly utility bill and get credits back for that savings. Now, we know that there's approximately about 75 to 80% of the market of individuals, businesses, and residents that can't put solar on their own property. Maybe, for example, the business, it's leasing or it's renting the property. Maybe it's a restaurant. They've got a lot of mechanical equipment on their roof. Maybe, for example, a residence. They just don't have a roof that is the right or correct orientation to have a solar array. And there's a lot of people, too, that just really, don't want to have to deal with the insurance, the maintenance, any upkeep for the next, 25 years associated to that system. So what we found is this really opens up an entire market and opportunity to those individuals that want to have that choice of clean energy, and they want to participate in receiving that energy through bill credits, but they just can't do it on their own property. So this really solves that fundamental solution. And I think the other advantage we have here is traditionally in a solar system that you would put up on your property, you've got a very large expenditure and outlay of cash up front to finance that system. Being a part of a community solar garden, you could subscribe to the entire amount of consumption, the energy you use monthly or annually. And as being a part of this community solar garden, you don't have to put up any huge amount of money to be a part of that subscription.
Well, that's a major plus because let's face it, Dustin, a lot of folks are on a fairly tight budget in these times.
That's correct. And so, I can say what we've done, working on this bill, that we've really kind of chipped away all the hurdles and all the excuses of why people have not in the past participated in solar. And we as an industry, we've listened loud and clear and understood that, issues of zoning and permitting and the ordinance to have solar installed, and listening to the upfront cost concerns that businesses and individuals have. How can we break through those hurdles? How can we break through those barriers and truly make solar for everyone? And I think that we've had a lot of success in doing that, getting our first couple of projects that will be built and up in the ground in May coming up here, and the projects that we are developing out in some of the rural communities in Northfield and Sherburne, in Sibley County, really is also pushing that solar envelope outside the metro, getting into rural and ag communities.
Well, Dustin, last January, I was up at Pork Congress at the Minneapolis Convention Center, and that's a huge trade show specifically for pork producers and those in the pork industry. And I did a fascinating interview with someone who was in the solar industry, but their specialty was working with livestock producers. So they had lots of space, fairly large panels, because let's face it, hog buildings take a lot of energy. And I specifically asked him, well, are you also working with homeowners, people that maybe live in town? And he said he didn't, but he was sure that there were companies out there that did. Well, and here Dustin comes along.
Yes, we do. Applied Energy Innovations, we do work with residential homeowners to get systems on their properties. And it's a great fit, if your property can meet all those conditions of, again, having a shade-free site, having a roof that's no more than, 5 to 7 years old, having the correct orientation and pitch to have that system installed. So, there's a lot of things that need to be met to fit inside that silo of requirements to have it installed on your property. Having the community solar garden, again, is just another opportunity to realize, hey, if I'm in a facility that can't host that solar on the building, again, having the opportunity to have that off-site array and being a participant of that is great. Now, when we also look at, ag producers in terms of whether it be poultry, whether it be hog facilities. These, and also dairy facilities, can be very large, energy-intensive operations. I mean, these are essentially agricultural businesses in the community. And this is another option, say, for example, where they might want to, as part of their business model or part of their mission, they want to figure out how they can be a greener and a more sustainable business. So we see a lot of natural fit for businesses and even individuals that say, hey, we want more alternatives to that. And with that, as we've gone to market, we've really seen the demand grow. It's definitely, we're in a marketplace right now where we have exponential customers and subscribers that are wanting to get in on this. And, that's really been very encouraging. We've been able to develop our team over at Minnesota Community Solar. Our staff of 6 has continued to grow since this bill has been passed. And, even looking at the potential and how we go out and we acquire and work with different land and different ag owners. We've got a couple of different farms that we're working with throughout the metro that have said, hey, I've got some land I'm not necessarily using. Some of this is not the best crop land. It hasn't produced the best yields. And we've been able to talk to them about, hey, would you be interested in hosting a community solar garden? So I think there's a lot of opportunities about, how community solar gardens fit into creating a benefit for everyone. And I think a true good case of that is how we're working with the Northfield Area Community Solar Group. There, very much was a concerned group in Northfield that said, hey, we're aware of these community solar gardens. We're interested in taking the next steps. And this group, Mary Jo and Erica, and there's 7 others as a part of their board, really kind of figured out all the little pieces, but then got to a point to where they got stuck in some of the legal framework requirements and some of the financing requirements. And, they chose to work with Minnesota Community Solar to help develop that first community solar garden in Northfield. And that's, what we call community partners, and creating the benefit to everybody, that being the subscribers, our community partners, the landowner, the project developers, and even the financiers of these projects. It's truly about creating a community benefit for all.
Even the base technology, Dustin, we've come a long way, haven't we, in terms of designing those solar panels? I think this was the guy I was talking to up at the Minneapolis Convention Center. He said years ago the solar panels were kind of flat, and they found out that didn't work in Minnesota because they'd be buried in snow. But if you slant them, facing them to the south, and the snow slides off, and you don't have to move the snow. I mean, the technology, the understanding has come a long way to make these a lot more efficient too, hasn't it?
That's true. Let's talk about that. In Minnesota, first of all, we have a great solar resource here. The solar resource, the solar window we have in terms of production is great. We've got these cooler shoulder seasons, spring and fall, that actually boost our production capacity and the efficiency of the modules. Most people don't know that with a solar panel, the higher the temperature gets, when we go ahead, we put these on a dark-colored roof, or, these are installed and implemented in the Southwest where it gets arid and it's dry and it's hot, the actual efficiency of the panels drop. So in Minnesota, we've got 2 really good things going for us. We've got these shoulder seasons. We've got a very high energy production season in the summer. And the most beneficial thing we have is we have this almost weekly, sometimes monthly rain event that basically is out there cleaning and washing these panels. We're talking about a product technology nowadays. It's engineered. It's guaranteed to have production for 25 years. There's no moving parts to these. We've got a great climate to install here in Minnesota. And at the same time, we're creating jobs and economic development.
There again, it sounds like it's a win for everyone. Now, explain exactly more how it would work if you get this project going and somewhere there's going to be this solar farm. Now, individual folks then can kind of contract in for however much energy they want each month?
That's correct. So what we have is a subscription, and what we'll do is what's typical is to take a look at the and this is for right now Xcel Energy customers. So we need to be very clear about that. That as the bill was passed, right now it mandated that Xcel Energy have a community solar garden program. Now there are also multiple munis and co-ops that are developing their own community solar gardens. In our model, what's typical is an individual, we would look at their utility bill and take a look at how much consumption they're using. We'll take a look from 12 months to 24 months what their annual consumption is, and then what we can do is we can size a subscription based off of either 100% of the power they're consuming, or we can do up to 120% by state statute. So what that means is they've got a little extra bump there, 20% in production that can occur towards their energy bill. So an individual is then going to get a bill credit every single month for the energy produced out of their subscription. So in a community solar garden, we're talking about basically a 1 megawatt garden. That could be, up to 150 to 200 residences, or we could have a number of businesses in that community solar garden also. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to get that bill credit, and it's going to fluctuate, a little bit throughout the year, depending on whether it's, coming out of the winter in January, February, or it's in the peak summer production hours. But what we're looking at is that average annual production number throughout the entire year, where we know that these systems will be outperforming and outproducing the energy expectations.
And so then it doesn't cost a homeowner in Faribault to be involved in this, or a business in Faribault, really anything up front, or is there
That's
a
correct.
no upfront investment?
That's correct. I mean, there's a small reservation fee to get into the program, and beyond that part, essentially, you're going to start to continue to pay your utility bill. You've got a savings that comes back in the form of that bill. You're going to share that with the developer, and you're going to keep a percentage of that anywhere from 8 to 13% on the savings for the subscription throughout the year. So the homeowner is getting the benefit here. The utility company itself is getting the benefit, because what we're doing is we're supplying local clean energy directly onto the grid, often during peak demand hours. So what that's doing is it's taking that load off that grid during those hot summer months when we've got air conditioning systems running. We've got a lot of energy intensive businesses. We're providing that infrastructure now throughout Xcel's energy grid, and taking that power, putting it right on the grid, and that Xcel customer is getting that bill credit directly to their bill.
Well, and then look at what's in it for Xcel or other power companies that might be doing something similar. When it's 95 degrees and humid in the summertime, they have their base load, but then they have peaking generators that come online, usually less efficient too, to generate that extra power. Well, then maybe they wouldn't need those either.
That's correct. I think that, what we're talking about here is, getting to a smarter grid. And I think, when we talk about our relationship with utility companies, we have an opportunity working with Xcel Energy to, continue to upward manage Xcel Energy to be the best utility company in North America. And Xcel has really taken a leadership role. They've done a lot of great things to really take a stance in the community and how they're looking at where they receive their energy and how they receive it. So I applaud Xcel and their commitment to this. And again, we also know that there are other munis and co-ops that are taking this position to provide these types of opportunities to their ratepayers.
Now, Dustin, how does it work if I were to go in on this and I live in Faribault? Does that stay with my home then? And if I have to move or I leave the community, does that stay with the home, or does it stay with me as the original homeowner? How does a kind of a transition work?
So that's a great question. And what was built into the statute was that any Xcel customer that was to move, as long as they are within the same county or a contiguous county to where the community solar garden is, they can simply transfer that subscription. So it's very convenient. It's very transparent. That we know that in Minnesota here, the average person moves almost once every 7 years. The opportunity is for that subscriber then to move anywhere throughout Excel territory. And let's say they are not next to a contiguous county to where that original garden was. They can move anywhere from, say, Sibley County in the southwest all the way up to Washington County up in the northeast part of the metro. They could look at transferring their subscription and getting into a community solar garden in a different array.
But what happens if all at once, maybe a few years go down the road and maybe the elderly couple, they pass away? So now what? Did the heirs inherit it then, or how does that work?
So there's a couple opportunities. That subscription, it could be transferred between another Excel ratepayer. We provide a very clear, transparent process where if you're completely, let's say you're moving out of the state, or you're moving to an assisted living or some sort of situation where you don't have that utility bill anymore, what we're going to do is we're going to work with our community partners, and we're going to work through a process to make sure that we're able to transfer that subscription and then fill that percentage of energy that's being generated by that array. So transferability, it is in the statute, allows individuals to be a part of these gardens and allows them an access path also.
Well, that sounds logical, because there might be people moving into the community then that say, hey, this is a great idea. So there would be a market for those subscriptions, so to speak, for the elderly couple that moved into assisted living.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
It sounds like you guys have thought of just about everything, Dustin.
Well, thank you. We've worked on it really hard, and I think the bottom line has always been, how do we build community solar gardens to create community benefit for all? And I think a lot of this was worked out, during the legislation. And I know definitely a lot of this, Minnesota Community Solar, we've been actively working with Excel Energy and with the PUC, the regulatory, really start to dial in all the fine details. And, it's been a lot of one-on-one work with both the PUC and with Excel of detail is providing these benefits and making sure that we can be providing this option to everybody. One of the about the hosts these gardens are located, we talked about ag land, using rooftop space if it's large enough. We're typically looking for about 5 to 6 acres. So this could be, for example, a very large manufacturing or warehouse distribution facility as another good host site. But what I like to think about also, too, is the fact that once these arrays are built, thinking about the long-term ag preservation. We've talked to different property owners that are looking at hosting these gardens. And, this is a 25-year lease. It's a long-term commitment, but there's no permanent structures put on these properties. So what's nice is we have cities that are looking at it saying, hey, we want to preserve some ag land. We don't want to have developments or planned developments in this community, at least not in the near future. Well, looking at doing a community solar garden, hosting that site for 25 years gives them then basically an opportunity window for 25 years to say, okay, we're going to preserve this. We know what it's going to do. It's going to generate lease payments for the landowner, whether it be the city, a farmer, or a business. And also, once that array is built, we will have a fence line around that by the National Electrical Code in North America here. We need to put a protective fence around that community solar garden, which creates opportunity for habitat, natural habitat within that fence line. So when we think about that, what does that mean? Well, let's think about our pollinators. We know that we have a huge declining bee population going on throughout North America. And by creating these naturally protected areas, we know we can create habitat for monarchs, we can create habitats for pollinators. We really can start to think about how we use this land and how we be good stewards in the future.
What is the timetable, Dustin? Do you anticipate maybe breaking ground somewhere in the Faribault area, for example, this spring yet?
Good question. So we're always looking for host sites in Faribault, again within Excel territory, and I know that we've got about 3 or 4 sites south of the metro right now in several different counties: Rice County, Dakota County. Again, as I explained, due to the growth and due to the demand right now, really going out, managing our growth and talking to landowners and finding those, great sites that are next to, electrical transfer stations or power substations or three-phase lines. Those are the things we're looking for. So I'd love to bring a project into the Faribault community. I'd love to be connected with individuals that are interested in hosting that site. And we'll see projects that are built this summer, projects that will be kicking off ground in the metro here will be some of the first projects in May. And we're going to start to see a lot more community solar gardens going on all over.
Well, that presentation, once again, you're going to be in Faribault along with maybe some of your other staff. Starts at 11:45. Well, the actual program starts at noon, but show up at the Faribault office, Chamber of Commerce office at 11:45. You'll be wrapped up by 1 o'clock, supposedly. Maybe that's the end of the formal presentation, but I'm sure you'll be visiting with folks after that. And, Dustin, do you also have a website where maybe folks can get a little more information, too?
Yeah, we do. We invite people to come check out mncommunitysolar.com. Come to our website, and you can look at the projects that we're working on. You can look at the community partners. We're building strong community partners with businesses, nonprofit organizations, and individuals throughout the metro. We've also got a landing page on our website that allows people, if they're interested in hosting a community solar garden, leasing some land or rooftop space. So our website is a great opportunity to take a look at where the projects are headed, where they're going to be built, future projects. And, it's Minnesota mncommunitysolar.com, and they can find out more information on the website.
Well, thanks, Dustin. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the Faribault of Commerce office just before noon.
That's great. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Come on down.
My guest in the program today has been Dustin Dennison with Minnesota Community Solar.